Welcome back to the Insiders. Stab in the Dark episode 4 just dropped, so you know the Insiders need to be back. We're here to talk everything to do with the last thing on the Stab in the Dark X with Kelly Slater. Nothing more, nothing less. But firstly, how are you, Daz?
I'm pretty good, Matty. I'm living the dream here. Oh, Kookaburra. There's
Yeah,
a kookaburra in the background. Landed in Brisbane the other day. I don't want people to get too excited. Put things into context. I'm currently residing in a North Brisbane retirement village, sleeping in my late father's bed. Here helping out with my mum for a few weeks. The night before I got here, cleaning up, she fractured a metatarsal in her foot. So, the joys and tribulations of aging parents will at one stage uh, get all of us. And luckily for me, Maddie, yesterday, so let's say 24 hours ago, I woke up at 2:30 in the morning, and one of the first things I saw was final episode, Stab in the Dark, or as playing, Stab in the Dark X, or as I saw a comment, which for me was a comment of the year,
I
on
think
the
I saw the same one.
Stab in the Mark asterisk. I thought that was unreal. Did you?
Yeah,
Is that the one you made?
Stab in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Dark Asterix was one of the funniest comments I've seen on the stab thing. That was hilarious. Um,
We got to mention, like you would have seen. I don't know if Matty published this, listeners, but we did get a bit of a shout out from Stab McIntosh from Snab and Stab on our last episode. Now, let's finish the episode first before we go too deep. But I will send Sam the link, and I don't know if we'll get the same reaction out of this one. We'll wait and see what you've got to say. What did you think, Matty?
Well, that's the thing. That's the beauty of this is what people need to understand is me and you have not, we don't speak about this beforehand. We're not like other poddies where we do like show notes beforehand or after. This is like Darren's about to hear my live reaction and I'm about to hear his. What did I think? As an episode, I didn't think it was the best episode in the world, but as a series, I still think it's incredible. Yeah, I kind of have a rundown of it. A few major thoughts. Let me just run down.
Let's go one major thought at a time.
Yeah, okay. Well then what we'll
Well,
do is
tennis.
one major thought per shaper is what like I'd written down when speaking to someone else. So I'm gonna start with let's start with Sharpeye, right? I think that they got the worst end of the stick from all of this. I actually think they came off like in a situation came off worse than DH because they got the least airtime. Marcio Zuvi got very little airtime across the whole series. The board got very little airtime, and the board looked really good. And Kelly seemed to really like the board, but we only saw it once.
I um I struggled with that yesterday too because I literally forgot that he'd even surfed it at another session. But he did. He surfed it at Snapper as well, correct?
I've it only got shown once. It only got shown in the first episode that
Yeah, yes.
he
What I thought was really interesting as well about that is the reflections you can have and the retrospect. For us, this series lasted a month, 2 months.
just yeah. What is it? 4 episodes every 2 weeks. Yeah, so just over 2 months.
The actual production of this and the event was over 1 week on the Goldie.
Yeah.
Um, I still really can't understand how they what did they add in? Like they dragged the last episode back a week. I'm assuming I just went for a morning walk with the dog. I was having a think about it, knowing we were going to speak. I got a feeling that's when they added in the Shapers looking at
Yeah,
some of the footage.
they said
Uh,
yeah, they said that.
I was pretty underwhelmed by the episode, but still overwhelmed by the series.
Yeah. But yeah, so first thought, and we'll move on to the second one. But first thought in a short from my side on a short is the sharp eye looked really good and got shafted when it shouldn't have. Um,
Can I debate you just quickly on that one, Matt, without
Sure.
debating you? That was because, or that I think that's because, is that he didn't like it enough to give it any more goes. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter what we see, it's what he writes.
you have to say that that's the real logical argument. The only bit that threw me is when Kelly said he really liked it, and when you got to revisit the footage of it, he actually looked really good on it. But yeah, second major thought, we'll chuck in something good here. John Pyzel is an absolute legend, and he the way he laughed it off, like basically he shaped the board for Kelly to surf in pretty much any other way. Like he wanted it to be pumping, and the Python didn't get used in pumping waves. And he kind of just laughed
Yeah.
it off. He saw the waves and was like, "Well, yeah, I didn't make the board for those waves, so I don't care," kind of thing. I think Python is amazing, and I do actually think again put put him on the Pyzel in absolutely cranking waves, and it probably would have been a lot better.
He obviously liked the Pyzel because he surfed it again then at the
Mm.
end as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
But
He
it
said
was
he said when
great.
it got juicy, the board went better.
The real hard part for me was that we only got that one good session at South Australia. I know that wave well. It brought back a lot of flashbacks for me because later on when he snapped the bowler's board, he was talking about the fiberglass and he cut himself. I surfed there with my late brother. Maybe it was one of my last surfs in Australia, I think, before coming to Europe, and I was on a Dalborg 6'4" pumping, as good as that in sort of conditions, same as good. And I snapped it, but it didn't break in half, and I had to paddle back across the Gold Coast Canal there, which is one of the sharkiest spots in the world, with a reverse snapped sort of board. So or was it the other way? I think it was up that way. So I was holding the nose down with one arm and paddling with the other, and sliced like the inside of my what's the muscle on the back of between your wrist and your elbow, basically. Uh, and that was fucking hectic, man. It's like cut fiberglass is so easy to cut yourself. But oh man, if they only could have had a couple more surfs at South Australia and my other, and even South Australia, it really does look like a hard spot to surf aboard. What I really wanted to say too was that first 30 seconds into him filming the South Study section altogether, I thought, wow, they've flipped the switch. We've got a complete different narrative here
Mm.
because all of a sudden the goals looked really good. And I thought that Dan Mann looked less good, but I'm pretty sure that's because he was riding it as a quad, which goes good in the barrel, but the wave was so short, there wasn't a whole lot of face. Well, I thought there wasn't a whole lot of face work to do,
Yeah,
but until I looked at the Biles footage again as well. But I thought that I wasn't going to win after that.
I didn't, and then when he went back to snapper for that last session,
Yeah, yeah.
the Dan Man looked really good again. So it just says to me that the Dan Man in good like in average to good waves was really good, and then in really good waves it wasn't potentially as good as some of the others could have been. It was strange that he went back to the Mayhem for that. I thought he would have gone the Dan Man and the CI at South Straddy because they were the two he looked the best on, the two that he seemed to say the best things about. Um,
Yeah, but
but
he gave the Biolos a go because he had a bit of a dodgy surf.
yeah, but you could argue that like he could have potentially have gone to the CI because he had a really good surf on it, and the only pumping waves they've got, he went like because he, he
I
didn't
can feel. I can feel Matty being less than stoked on the fact that Biolis came out of this pretty,
Well, I do
pretty,
think
pretty
I
good,
think
really, didn't he?
I think people have quite short memories in terms of the fact that the Biolos looked absolutely terrible in the first on the first day, and it also looked terrible at Snapper before he snapped it. It got caught behind waves. It like so. I left the episode thinking, well, nearly any board would look good in those South Strady waves. Um,
Yeah, especially under Kelly's feet.
and also like it was like it made me think, well, if the Mayhem looked terrible and then that's how good it looked, what would the Sharpeye have looked like, or what the Pyzel would have looked like? It goes back to like I guess it goes back to the argument or the kind of conversation about how fair is the stab in the dark. Um, into
Basically, this was Stab in the Dark, Kelly, Snapper. Now, there's a lot of different thoughts you can have about it. I've come to the conclusion that um, also for, and whether they did this or not, I don't think they did. It was just coincidental. Kelly was on the Goldie. That's how they all did it. But honestly, for the majority of Stubbs' audience, I'm thinking, I could be completely wrong, but I'd like to, I'd bet on it. 3 or 4 foot snapper is the ideal wave for any performance-based surfer in the world to think about having a crack at. And that's what their whole market is. That's what Kelly is. That's what he got. I was a little bit underwhelmed with it, but I don't know if you can necessarily as well like a stab in the dark at pumping pipe or you can, but it's just not as relatable to anyone else.
yeah, no, I mean I kind of agree. Like, and it's always the same conversations. Like Jack Robinson done his stab in the dark in Hawaii. Not
Yeah,
all
but
of the board
most of it was Rocky Point, small, fun Rocky Point.
and not all of the boards got the same waves on the same day. You look at Geordie was in the tropics, wherever he was, like Mentawais or
He had
whatever.
probably the best waves, man. He was in the Mentawais,
Yeah,
surfing macaronis.
and again, some days the waves weren't as good as the like. That's just surfing, isn't it? So, it's not new that the boards are tested in different waves and different styles. Um, but yeah, I mean, I thought the Mayhem looked real good at South Straddy, but I think overall it looked like one good session versus two shit sessions to me is not a good outcome. But God knows, I kind of just wish that we got to sort of see every board at South Straddy to for it to be a bit more kind of across the board. Um,
Balance. So at the end of this episode, Matt, is that taste in your mouth like like the first bite of a hot, freshly cooked cinnamon donut or a big spoonful of mashed Brussels sprouts with Kelly, I mean. Kelly, not the episode, not the series. Your thoughts of Kelly.
yeah, it's definitely the first one. I think he comes across great. He gives us everything we want and more from him. Like I would say throughout the whole thing, his surfing wasn't amazing. Like it wasn't surfing that you'd sit there and watch all day. But everything he does is just interesting. So yeah, for sure. Like, and I think on the same question for Stab, like, and for Sam McIntosh and for the team is like, I do feel sorry for them now. Like, they're not going to be able to shout about this too much, and they're not
Well,
going
we'll
to
get to that. I do have a couple of thoughts on that as well.
be. But yeah, the person who has left a mushed up Brussels sprout flavored taste in my mouth is DH. I think he's obviously the first episode we saw everything that happened, or second episode we saw everything that happened, and he writes himself off. He had a chance to redeem himself in this last episode where they done the extra interviews. He comes across like a bell end, like a full bell end. I don't know why he decides to make comments about how Brit Merrick looks. It seems like it's rooted purely from jealousy. He's definitely he cannot let go of the fact that John surfs for Pyzel. He speaks about Mick Fanning far too much, and he just came across really bad as a person. And I'm sure he's
Can you
not.
uh, can you ever see now? I don't think he watched this, John. I'd like to think he would, but it would so surprise me that he would force himself to watch this because he's got a young child and he's obviously doing something that's if I was on a getting ready to go on a boat, travel the world surfing with my young wife and kid, I wouldn't be necessarily watching this when you're that implicated
Yeah.
in the surfing world. But a lot of people didn't like 291 comments. I don't know what the most of them were, but on the last episode, just on the stab thing, like Kelly gets fully roasted. That's why I asked you that before. Like people are off him, man. People think he's in a conspiracy. I'm like 90% on the fence,
But what
convincing you
about
what the board,
because
convincing you what the board was, but I still am impressed that he didn't outright say it because him as well, he doesn't want to just jeopardize all that stuff. And he looked the best on that board. He
but
looked the best on that board. That
what
board
about
won for me.
DH? Go because I do want to talk about the stab comments and people talk about Kelly and stuff, but just go back. What do you think about DH through the how he comes across through the whole?
Yeah, it's a bit like do you need to?
Yeah,
Like,
just
it's the oldest expression in the world is, my mum told me to, if you don't have something nice to say about something, don't say anything at all. Or, okay, say a couple of nice things like, let's not, this, our platform's not political, but there's some gnarly stuff going on in the world at the moment that we could easily talk about here. And a lot of that action's coming from a certain individual. But are we just going to sit there hating on people? You know what I mean? I'm talking at the wars
yeah,
and things
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Let's
But you're
shrink it
right.
down to the stab in the dark thing where fucking Kelly gives him a week, and this production team honestly did a pretty insane job to be
Yeah,
able to get 4 episodes out of it. And if it's not enough for us, or if they want everyone he'll do what he wants. He's not gonna
yeah,
he not earn the right, for example, to pick which board he liked the best, whether it was a
yeah,
guy. Here's a Kelly story for you. Right at the start of the transition when we were selling the license back, to buy the license back off Euroglass in 2009, I think it was, late eight, or early nine. Now Bradley was getting, he was in a bidding war between CI, who absolutely wanted him, and Belly and Pierre and Yes from Quicksilver, who didn't want him to go because he'd become Kelly's shoo shaper. Shoo's French word for pet shaper. Now, he had a lot of boards being built for him in California, so which is a similar. He had a lot of boards being given for him. They would have been giving him, I'd say, 5 or 10 to 1 compared to what we were giving him. Christian made him this little swallow-tailed flyer two that became the devil because he actually modified the whole thing. And he won snapper on it and then won bells on it. And people were like just binging us saying like, what's that? It was just you know what I mean? It was just he got that board out of a batch and it was the one he picked. When he turned up on the Goldie, he would have had 15, 20 boards. Who can say why one is better than the others? And that was what happened with these five. Sorry, I got long-winded, but it
no,
makes sense what I was
it makes
trying
sense.
to say.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And I think going back to like the DH thing and like you said about the political stuff as well, what that was the bit that really kind of ticked me off with the DH bit was he'd clearly watched the episode about Brit because that's why he made the comments about what how Brit looked. That episode about Brit, everyone's seen it, and if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's emotional and it's raw, and it's a man talking about some deep stuff, and what instead of giving him any credit or saying Kelly looked great on his board, blah blah blah, he decides to just try and rip him down with a cheap thing about, oh, he looked like, don't cut off your beard and your hair because like he's not a good looking bloke. I'm not being funny, but you're like a 5'4" little gremlin, so you
Yeah,
can't.
but you don't have to take that stuff too serious as well. You got to remember, he is a bit of an Aussie larrikin. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
but
sure
that
most of
doesn't.
it said to cheek, but still.
But it's the same thing, right? It's not the same thing, but it's like that's like when people say like an older person is racist and they go, "Oh, it's just the generation they were brought up in." It might be. Don't say it out loud. Like you're not in
Yeah.
that generation anymore. So it just left me with a thing about DH where I was just like, you just look like a bit of a sour little like fuckhead, really. But moving on because we did just mention it. And you said about how people are off Kelly. I I don't really comment on Stab too much and stuff like that, but I actually read the comments last night after watching it, and I thought, fuck every single one of you who's talking bad about this, because 2 weeks ago you were saying this is the best thing ever, and like I don't know, I'm like, what do you want? Like, because Sam Mack, like I know he won't, but Sam Mack and Stab could be like, do you know what? Fuck this lot. We're just gonna do something else now. These are the only people in the surf world who are giving us good shit. Like 90% of the good content, competitions, articles, like where we hear about stuff comes from Stab. And for people to that quickly jump on Kelly and jump on the series, I think is bullshit. Like it was
I
not.
wouldn't say 90, I wouldn't say 90%, but they are the major influences. I mean, for example, Beach Grit Tracks, none of these other people are creating their own thing. They're all using other people's. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, like us. And I just think like, yeah, fine. Have your opinions about stuff. If you think Kelly knew the board, I said it. I think Kelly knew the board. I still don't. I think he knew the board, but I still think Kelly is so much like how he is that if he'd have snapped the damn man wouldn't have won. There wouldn't have been like a rule change.
Telling
And
you, Dan Mann has probably made him a shit ton of surfboards that he
literally,
can, that he didn't like,
yeah,
that
yeah.
weren't good. So for him as well, and he's not just giving him four boards from himself, all based on stuff he knows, and trying to say, oh, do you like one of them? He's giving him one board out of a batch of six, and the other five people are the best Formula One commercial, wealthy surfboard company shapers in the world. So
And
you
also,
can say
like,
whatever you want, but it was never going to be a sure thing, and
no.
he's put it best,
And DH, like if you look at like if you
I
actually look
think.
at it, like DH, he tried to get inside knowledge. He was the one who admitted that he spoke to Mick quite a bit about what does Kelly like, what does Kelly like, what does Kelly not like, blah 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 blah. Like, why is that any different from Dan Mann going, oh, okay, well, I think Kelly likes this. Like, if you actually look what Kelly surfs a lot of the time, he doesn't actually surf that Dan Mann that much. He surfs Mike Wu boards a lot. He surfs Weber boards a lot. He surfs the Aquila Ipa twin fin a lot. Like you
What's the guy from what's the guy from down near Lennox again?
don't near Lennox, not sure. What?
Firewise, Tomo.
Oh yeah, Daniel Tom. Yeah, literally Tomo. Yeah. I mean, most of Kelly's recent boards have been boards like the FRK. Um, they've been from Mike Wu, not from Dan Mann. So
Here's that, and everything's based around if. If he had had 3 weeks with those boards across a lot of different conditions, I think there would have been a different result. But if he canned the Dan Man early, maybe he wouldn't have snapped the Violas, maybe he would have served someone else. There would have been a different result. There's all these ifs but that wasn't an if. It was a comp for him to pick one out of six, and they had 1 week. And now, remember you were talking about how Luke Munro's role was not like what he said. Even though now, when you look at it in retrospect, you also got to say, okay, they didn't give him Luke Munro 3 months. They were there for 1 week,
Yeah.
and he gave them 2 sessions, which were the first one, which were intricate to the series and the South Australia episode. He
Mm.
got him on those 2 days, and they were amazing. But it was only 1 week, man.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, would have loved him to go everywhere else. And they had when wherever was that finished. Let's say this was finished. What do you reckon? Last May.
Yeah.
So they had all that time till now to reflect and say, "Well, fuck, which have they done?
Yeah.
We need another series." So they've got the other series coming, correct?
Yeah.
Ethan Ewing.
Ethan's done, filmed.
So my big question to you, Matty, does DH submit a board to the Ethan Ewing one? And in the new context, does the DH have to be eliminated?
Yeah. I also would add a third question to that onto your list, which is, does Dan Mann now get invited to the normal stab in the darks? Like, because that's what they were all bitching about before, saying, "Oh, we've earned it, we've earned it."
Oh, yeah, they've earned it because they always get a shoe in because they can
Yeah.
always make 2 or 4 production boards wherever they are in the world and have them there because they got the money.
Yeah, look at Christian. Christian came second or third in the Geordie one? Second,
And
right?
the
Yeah.
board snapped. The board snapped, and Geordie said to him, I was there when Geordie said to him, I it was a front runner to win.
Yeah. And
And it was hard for us. We had to make the 2 boards and send them to America. It cost us a fortune in transport. It cost us €1,600.
yeah.
1,600.
So here's my thoughts on your questions. No, the DH shouldn't be eliminated. Yes, he should enter it. Yes, Dan Mann should definitely be in the Ethan Ewing one as well. I one the
Too late.
only
It'll already be done and dusted, won't it? Or
yeah.
no?
Yeah, it's done and dusted. Yeah, it's filmed everything. Yeah, done. It's done. They'll just be editing it now. Um the the one thing that I picked up that I wanted to mention, which was the only strange bit about the series, not the only strange bit, but one of the strange bits is, why was the DH the only board eliminated? I feel like with having six boards there, you've eliminated one and then you just had five. I feel like maybe they should
Yeah.
have just kept them all.
It got a bit loose.
Yeah, I just thought like, well, keep them all and surf them all like whenever. And so I obviously it was only a week, so you couldn't really surf them that much more. But
Or he should have had to have eliminated one
yeah,
after the South Australia episode.
yeah. Or and he should have maybe had to eliminate one after that.
Then the Dan Man wouldn't have won.
But then if he had have had to eliminate one after the episode beforehand with where they were at D bar and he surfed the
The others would have
CI,
been eliminated.
yeah, the CI, the Lost, and the Damn Man, he would have definitely got rid of the Biolus. So I definitely thought that that was a little bit. I'm surprised that DH didn't think that that was unfair, that he was the only person cut after
I'm pretty
one
sure he did think it was unfair.
one or two surfs. But yeah, that was the only bit that was a little bit strange, or not the only bit, but that was the other bit that was a bit strange from me. But I just thought, yeah, the people in the comments, fuck man, like almost like what more can Stab do? Like,
I
and
tell ya,
yeah,
Kelly did have a bit of a not a gut, but he is more solid in the solar plexus area. Obviously, like he's 54. He's about to have his second kid. Did you see that?
bird kid, but yeah,
Yes, yes. Sorry. The second well, kind of a close run to the same
yeah.
way. So my thoughts on that were they're going to have a live-in nanny, or he's going to have to just kick off the surfing battle. So he can afford it. So there's a live-in nanny there for sure, isn't there? Or a couple.
100%. Where'd you apply? Yeah, 100%.
I bet you wouldn't be able to go surfing. You'd be sitting there all the time hearing about where he's going.
Yeah, yeah, true.
And people might try and hate on that, but like big businessmen do the same thing.
Like, fuck,
Rugby players, soccer players, basketball players, they're off all the time.
anyone who hates on it, ask
His his
what would you do?
career is still professional surfer, isn't
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah,
it?
yeah. Like, what would you do? And I mean, to be fair to him, I think if you, I don't know if you would have listened to it or not, but the Stab done a interview with Kelly with Dane's on it. It's on that Stab mic thing. It's Dummer, Dane, and Kelly.
Hey,
And
you saw that? I commented off the cafe on a certain thing, and Kelly replied to me. I got kissed on the
kissed on the
dick by a
dick
fairy.
by a goat. But yeah,
Which
if you
which
watch
I thought
them,
was interesting. We talked about that. I honestly thought that that guy. It was based on a guy that Kelly took off in front of, and the guy didn't pull off the wave. Now it's not really a big issue, but Dane and I agree with Dane where he said like this dude should have just pulled off and let Kelly surf it. Now he's 11 times world champ. Whatever that he's had the most waves in the world and doesn't need an extra wave or anything like that. He was actually out there
working
working and come on, man. Are
Kelly,
you not more interested? How many times are you in the water with him? How many times?
do
Do
you
you want to
think?
see him surf or do you want to see him paddle?
Here's my question, right? You know how there's heaps and heaps of adult learners now, and heaps of people paddling out, not being grown up with the culture and everything like that. Is there any chance that that guy, because I watched him, he didn't look like the greatest surfer or paddler or anything, did he? Um, is there any chance that guy didn't know it's Kelly?
Yeah, maybe.
Because that would
Uh,
be even funnier.
and the other thing is, as well, is that's what our culture used to be. Now people want the culture to be different. Even though it used to be pretty hard and you had to know your place and everything, it still was inclusive to the fact that if you was someone who would give it a dig, were always there, were always in the water, no matter what, you earn respect anyway because you put all to it. And that's why I kind of brought that up to Dan Gidauskas on our last potty. I'm not looking for controversy. I'm not against new people coming into the sport or anything like that. But you're coming into the sport like there are people like this new Instagram crowd who do their 3 months in Indo, and it's note to young self, you were so brave, and all this courageous because they're living. My other sister's getting married and in a desk job. I'm the different one. You're not like fuck. Good on you, but see if you can keep doing that in another 20 years with a job,
Yeah.
with if you've you high rent, with a partner, with maybe a child, with looking after your parents and everything. Now, if you can do that, all that, and still be 100% dedicated to the sport, you've come through. You've come through the channel and you're in the water somewhere where you're surfing. People will recognize you and you will get waves. And that's what he's done.
Yeah. I mean,
He's
and
still
that's it.
out there, man. He's still a frother. It's
Yeah,
unreal.
miles on the clock. You just with anything, you got to put in time, giving it a crack and working at it. That's for me the like levels of what it should be. We've got 2 minutes left. Overall
I
for
was a
me,
little bit disappointed that he was jet ski towing into waves at South Australia map, but we won't go deep into that. He got a wave count up, but I was a bit disappointed about that actually.
yeah. When I saw they were on skis, I was like, surely they could have tested more than two boards if they were doing it. Like, I don't know what the tides and stuff are like, though, to be fair. But yeah, overall, I think like huge pat on the back to the guys at Stab. I mean, I think overall, I'd probably still give it like I'm gonna go 8.67 out of 10. I saw people going, this has gone from the best stab in the dark to the worst stab in the dark. And I'm like, you're a moron for if you think that. Sorry if you think that.
Yeah,
And
but remember these people, they're allowed to have their opinions, Matty, and it
yeah,
did
they're allowed
show
to be
them.
wrong. They are allowed to be wrong. It's okay. But I'm all for it. I think it's still incredible. I also think a lot of people can like that are criticizing saying Kelly would know what the board is, blah blah blah. Here's a little bit of inside knowledge. There's at the beginning of I've only got a minute. At the beginning of this episode, you see a guy taking a picture with Kelly and he's got a snapped board. That is my mate. And they said to him if he can name all six boards, like from blind, who shaped them, they'll give him one because it just snapped his board and he got one out of six. And that guy's a good surfer and he knows boards. That's how hard it is to tell.
Yeah, well, it ended up, honestly, by the time we did get to the last part of the episode, it did end up being a Kelly show, which it always was, as
It's
opposed
it's
to
Kelly
Shaper
Slater.
show. Yeah, Shaper show, and all those shapers got all big ego. So I'm actually glad that actually did come out with Kelly on top, and I super am impressed by Dan Mann. I thought he's great.
Yeah, same.
It's just a great character. It's something that surfing needs.
Yeah, and his board looks sick. So yeah, fair play to him. I mean, and final thing, that is not the same firewire you're buying off a shelf. This is a that was a PU board with a stringer. So
And other footnote is maybe next week I'll do a little review on what it's like to surf crowded snapper because I think I'm there Saturday morning. I'm
nice.
a bit nervous,
Go pick up your album.
and I brought my Fipsy Yo. Got to surf you what you know, like Kelly.
True. Yeah, boy. Well, that's a wrap for Stab in the Dark. That's a wrap for us. We'll be back with heaps more soon. Go enjoy yours, Daz.
Thanks for coming. I'm going for a coffee.
Let's go.